What's going on, guys? I wanted to hit you with a quick Matterport video, MTTR stock. Now we've got a couple things to go over. We did get some new price targets right after their earnings call. We're also going to look at some investor conferences coming up here. I'm going to show you something that just happened on the chart, and I'm going to give you a couple of tidbits of information from their earnings call and feature a part in the Q&A where Piper Sandler's representative talked, and they were one of the people that gave a increased price target. Now let's look at all of this. I'm not going to give you the whole spiel, but just consider liking and subscribing, and let's do it. So first off, these upcoming investor conferences. This will give a little bit more exposure to the stock and let people know what Matterport's all about. Now first off, we have March 1, March Madness, Wolf Research in New York City. We've also got Morgan Stanley. This is going to be on Tuesday, March 7 in San Francisco. We also have Loop Capital Markets Conference, going to be happening on Monday, March 13th, virtual conference. And then we have the Berenberg Thematic Software Conference. This is going to be on Tuesday, March 14th in New York City. And it says the presentation will be webcast live, so I'm assuming maybe this one, but maybe we'll have access to all these presentations. That would be fantastic. I'll definitely let you know every step of the way. If these do come out, you'll be seeing them here from me. Now, I also wanted to go into some recent price targets. And while these are far from lofty, this is not a huge upside. And just based on some recent analysts, we do have 3 ratings, 1 a buy, 2 a hold, with an average price of $350. This is only a 10% upside. But more importantly, I wanted to go over what recently happened. We did have a price target here from Piper Sandler firm, giving it a $4 price target, which is only a 25% upside, but it's still good. And mainly, what I wanted to look over here was in the Q&A, they actually did ask a question. So let's go over that right now.
Our next question today comes from Brent Braceland with Piper Sandler.
Hi, this is Mauro jumping on for Brent. Thanks for taking our questions. So the first question I have is really around budget prioritization. As your customers have maybe taken a closer look at budgets going into the year, where is Matterport shaking out in terms of budget prioritization going into 2023, and how are your customers thinking about the mission criticality of the Matterport platform? And then I have one follow-up.
Sure, I'll take that and jump in. Thanks for the question. And it really depends on the markets that we're talking about, right? At the center of recent conversation and certainly focus for the company is enterprise. And in the enterprise, everybody is looking at their OpEx by quarter and maybe even by month, quite frankly, and looking for ways to create efficiencies in their business more than ever. We really saw that development over the course of 2022 really take off. And so what we've been quick to do is to help our enterprise customers and prospective customers understand the value proposition of Matterport, which is pretty straightforward. You create a digital twin of your facility, your manufacturing unit, or a collection of retail chains, and we dramatically reduce the cost of business travel and the time that goes into groups of people that need to access those properties physically to do their building and space analysis, inspections, walkthroughs, and the like. This has been a huge boost and a huge improvement in the enterprise for customers that are looking to cut costs out of their organization, but that still have dependencies on their physical footprint as part of their core business, right? And those examples I gave, run right down the center of that fairway. And so we saw great success as companies were reevaluating what investments they're going to make. We're now getting positioned as a productivity driver and a cost saver for these organizations, getting them just onto the platform initially. In other markets, like residential real estate, there's no question, with interest rates in the economy where it is, that category has felt the pressure. For the last 10 years, the value proposition for the real estate agent, the homeowner, the home buyer, the home seller has been, if you put a digital twin alongside your marketing activities for a given property, whether you're selling it or renting it, homes stay on the market, properties stay on the market for much less time, and sell or rent for a higher price, right? We have been proving that statistically year in and year out over the last decade. And so while the real estate market might be soft, there are still houses that are sitting out there looking for buyers. And Matterport speeds up that transaction, creates buyer confidence by bringing more people into an open house in virtual form, giving them enough information to make a purchase decision, even without having to set foot in the property. And as we continue to push that value proposition, even into challenged markets like real estate, we still see an opportunity for us to grow our business across all of these different verticals.
And then just second question is around, I saw that you disclosed the overall net retention rate. I think it was around 103% for the quarter. Is there a net retention number that you track or a range that we can think about for NRR enterprise customers? or even for customers outside of residential real estate?
While we don't disclose additional numbers around net dollar retention or net dollar expansion rate, what we have talked about over the last several quarters is that there is a bit of separation between the enterprise and the small business customer in their respective, NDRs. And that separation started about a year ago, and prior to that, there really wasn't a difference. But it did begin about a year ago. It's sort of continued fairly steadily, and enterprise customers are expanding at a much higher rate than the small business customer these days. And that's been fairly steady for the last 4 quarters.
So that analyst that asked those questions must have either liked the answers or just liked what happened during the call. Maybe he liked the sound of how enterprise customers are definitely warming up to Matterport's product. But I did want to go over a couple main points here before I go over the chart. So forgive me because I'm just going to read these off for you. So some points I got out of this was, despite slow real estate macro environment, they still found that companies are increasingly trying to find ways to be more efficient and optimized utilizing Matterport's digital twin. Now, they did mention John Deere utilizing their product to remotely track assets, materials, and project progress, among other uses. In the fourth quarter, nearly half of the subscription revenue came from industries outside of resident real estate. As we know, their residential real estate kind of saw a decline. Things weren't looking that great. That's obviously due to the high interest rates, due to the real estate market cooling. Maybe this analyst sees that eventually over time, the real estate market will get back to a strong point. Could be years, could be months, but eventually that is more money coming to Matterport. Now, they did mention gross margin did drop from 48 to 36% due to a write-down of their value of some of their Pro 2 cameras. As we know, they are working on their Pro 3s, getting those rolled out, but that was a $5 million write-down. And if it actually wasn't for that write-down, their gross margin would have been right around 48%, which is consistent with their previous performance. Now, they're also seeing scale benefits with subscription gross margin of 75% as they have increased processing and hosting services efficiency. They had a reduction in research and development, keeping their promise of efficiency. Now, one interesting thing I got out of the call was they kept mentioning this path to profitability. However, they didn't give a specific date, but just the fact that they are actually talking about profitability, that's definitely a good sign. Another good thing is they did lower their operating expenses by 6%. They did keep their headcount steady, so we shouldn't see more expenses there. They have $477 million, as many of you know, and they are debt-free. And with that, they believe they're more than fully funded to achieve their business plan. Now, subscription service and product revenue did reach an all-time high. And they also mentioned supply chain issues, saying that things are looking better but are not fully resolved. And they also said, and I quote, "If we see relief from macro and supply chain uncertainty, we believe we are well positioned to outperform as we go through 2023. So if macro environment eases, if supply chain problems get better, they could give an increased outlook, which would definitely be a positive for Matterport. But if you guys listen to the earnings call, what do you think? What are your main takeaways from Matterport? And are you investing in it? Next up, let's look at the chart real quick. I do have something to show you here. And we did experience a pretty red day today. And one thing that you'll see is we did break this kind of general uptrend that we've been seeing ever since the beginning of the year. And one unfortunate thing in my eyes is that, this stock recently hit a low point right at the end of last year. There's a lot of stocks that I follow that reached their lows in May. This stock has broken under its May 11 low. And it is a little concerning that their low was reached not that long ago. I'll definitely be a little more confident in Matterport if their low was in fact that May 11 low, because that just indicates that we've gotten so much time from that low point. It just gives me a little bit of kind of boost of confidence. But seeing that they have recently hit a low not that long ago, and this is literally where we started this run up, we could definitely go back down there. I wouldn't be too surprised. And another thing you'll notice here is this has been in a 1-year downtrend starting in January of 2022, and I am patiently waiting for a breakout out of this descending resistance. Now, you might be wondering, did I pick up a position in Matterport? As you may know, I don't have any Matterport currently. I am still watching it. I am taking my sweet time here. I'm just continuing to be patient. As some of you may know, their revenue next quarter is a little bit of a drop compared to this quarter's revenue. It definitely seems like they're facing some headwinds moving forwards. However, on the year, they do expect an increase in revenue as a year-by-year standpoint. But it is a little concerning that they are expecting a lower revenue in this next quarter. And I do think if you're looking for an entry point, if I'm looking for an entry point, it'll be a great time to kind of keep an eye on Matterport as we move on to the next quarter. And let's face it, this is the top stock when you're talking about a digital twin. They've been around the space for quite a long time, and they've even said it's a multi-billion-dollar market opportunity. And I do believe that Matterport over time will continue to catch a good percentage of that market share. But what do you guys think about Matterport stock? Make sure you leave a comment below. Thanks as always, guys, and have a good rest of your night.